this again. Frankie Flowers here. I'm live each and every Saturday to turn the Garden of Whedon into the Garden of Eden. My little rant that I just did, I want to start it clean because, hey, we're starting at 8:01 anyways. I started earlier on the other one. The reason why this is a big weekend, it's Thanksgiving weekend. I'm thankful for all of you. I'm thanking for all of you for your patience sometimes when I screw up on some of the feeds that are out there. And I'm going to be grateful and make this the best one yet. So first off, good morning. Happy Thanksgiving. Yesterday I was at the Jays game. The Jays didn't do so well, but I'm going to do better here. It just seems like that's what we're here. So here's the area where we come together as a community to help you with your gardens and also just inspire you, give you some information, just to even keep you company on a Saturday morning. This is a big weekend, big Thanksgiving weekend. We're going to be eating lots. We are going to be maybe drinking lots, and you can be doing lots. Perfect weekend to edge your gardens that are out there. Perfect weekend to do some cleaning up, divide some perennials. You can plant additional perennials. Perfect weekend to be planting garlic. Cut your lawn this weekend. Apply that Scott's Fall Lawn Food Winterizer. Make sure you put that down this weekend. It's got the high nitrogen. That high nitrogen is to protect the lawn in the winter because it puts extra sugars into the blades of grass and really helps those out. So it's the perfect weekend to do that fall application of lawn food that's out there. Hand removal of some weeds. Also do a little bit of weed be gone on some of the additional weeds you see in your lawn as well. So it's a great weekend to get out there, get busy, get physical, and maybe even you can rake some leaves, but take in the fall color. This year, the fall color in Ontario, I've been seeing pictures out of New Brunswick. I've been seeing pictures from Calgary as well. I've been seeing pictures in Vancouver. The colors are out of this world. Miriam, good morning to you. Got to give a shout out to her and happy Thanksgiving to her as well and family. Here we go to Lacey. Good morning from the Choisey, the Oshawa that's out there. Morning from Havelock. Shelly, good morning to you. Lenore saying a happy Thanksgiving as well. So just a little bit of some indication right now and just some information and advice. So let's say that you're going around your garden and you're seeing insect damage right now and where you're seeing disease. You know, we are going into winter. The key is really any applications. The only thing, if we're moving plants indoors, we need to use an insecticidal soap, spray them before bringing them in. And then I would do an additional application of insecticidal soap about a week after when they're indoors. For those plants outdoors that were diseased this year, really important to clean up all those leaves and kind of rake that up, clean the area up, and discard those leaves. Don't put them in the composter. We want to keep that fairly clean. Even though if we have a composter that's working well, the temperature is warm enough to kill off some of the fungal spores and the disease, we want to remove those. Also, if you're working with diseased plant material, wipe your tools down with a little bit of water and bleach just to sterilize them. Keep it clean, but clean up that garden. But if you're thinking about what should I apply at this time of the year, because we are going into dormancy, you don't really need to apply anything. If you do want to apply some things on fruit trees, you can be doing some dormant sprays and some horticultural oils at this time, but really that's for next spring. Audrey's giving you a big shout out this morning to everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family from Markham. That includes everybody out there. Sandy saying good morning to me as well. Good morning, Sandy. Cheryl's giving a big shout out this morning as well. Hello there. And then we got a reply as well this morning, replying to Lisa. I planted catmint and catnip. I will tell you that the catnip, there's a Nepia variety of catnip that's a proven winner's variety. I think it's Walker's Lane is the name. Just coming off memories there. It is a beautiful plant. It is a catnip perennial. Comes back each and every year that flowers with a beautiful blue flower. After it's done in its bloom period, cut it right down to the ground. You'll get a second bloom period. It's really attractive to many pollinators that are out there. Nice ground cover, easy to grow, great for your cats. So if you're thinking about that, check that out. This is from Anne. Question this morning about rhubarb. Do I need to do anything with my rhubarb to prep it for winter? Once the foliage starts to die back, I would just cut that foliage back and still leave a little bit of a stub of foliage on the base that'll collect snow around it. I often like to put a bag of sheep manure around the rhubarb in the fall months. That'll amend the soil, and manure is really good for rhubarb. So just one bag of sheep, just kind of top dress the soil around the top with that sheep manure. Frost and thaws of winter will work that into the soil, add nutrients, and you'll have a bigger, badder, and better rhubarb next season. Always amazed by rhubarb, and this is the last thing I would always tell people. You got to learn about plants out there because the stalks of rhubarb, beautiful. Love eating them. But the leaves of rhubarb can be poisonous. So you got to be careful out there as well. Morning from Balsam Lake. What a beautiful place that is there. Where we go. we got a question there. Morning from Balsam Lake. Should I trim back flowering almond standard, and should I wrap it in burlap? So don't trim back. If there's any huge, so a flowering almond standard is basically they've taken the flowering almond bush, grafted on top of a fruit stalk, and that's where it becomes like a little miniature tree. It blooms on this year's growth. So if we were to prune it, we're going to be removing some flowers. The only thing that I would prune, if there are some branches that look really long, and you maybe want to make it a little bit tighter, so just prune it so that's tighter, so if it gets snow. I would actually, because the flowering almonds tend to be a little bit tender, especially up in Balsam Lake, I would, if it's not that tall of a plant, I would get tall wood poles, and I would put 4 wood poles around that flowering almond standard, and then I would wrap those wood poles with burlap. What that's going to do is protect it from wind and also shade, so it doesn't go through much moisture loss in the winter season. Even deciduous plants, like a flowering almond, can go through moisture loss, especially the bark and stems, and that can crack. That'll help it out a little bit. If you wanted to put some dry, clean leaves in that little circle that you wrapped up, and you want to put it halfway up just to right around where the head is, and that'll cover the graft point a little bit. That's another way that you can do it. Peggy. Good morning, Peggy. My roses have grown tall canes. Do I trim those? Love your show. Happy Thanksgiving. Peggy, love you. Those tall canes, yes, trim those. So with a rose, what we want to do at this time of the year is we want to protect a rose. So what we're doing is we're selecting the 3 to 5 best canes, the thickest, most healthy canes. We're pretty much pruning all the other growth off to those 3 to 5 canes. Those 3 to 5 canes, we're pruning them till they'll be about 14 to 18 inches in height. Then we're going to get a rose collar or even a rose hat or hood that goes over the top. The rose collar, we'll put it around the rose and then mound soil up. And that's for Floribunda, Grandifloras, Hydrangea. The rose hood, we can actually mound the soil up and then put the hood on top. It's almost like a pot. And then you put a rock on the top of that so it doesn't blow away. But you do cut the canes. The reason why we don't want those tall canes is that if we got freezing rain or a heavy wet snow, it can bend those canes, break those canes, and cause some additional problems that are out there. Here we go. Danny, breaking news. Good morning from Huntsville. Woke up to some white stuff on the ground. Yeah, northwesterly winds, temperatures last night, right around and below that freezing mark, especially up in Huntsville. So those winds came off Georgian Bay, pushing in some wet snow towards areas in cottage country in Ontario, like Huntsville. So there's some snow that are out there. Here we go with another happy Thanksgiving this morning from Hanover, Ontario. And then it's like, you muted yourself. Danny, I did mute myself because I was plugging in my microphone and I was trying to check that it was the right one. And then I pushed the mute button. It happens. Who out there has not muted themselves doing these Zooms and doing these kinds of things where you think that you're speaking and really, like, I'm in a room right now speaking to a camera, speaking to all of you, but you got to get in your mindset that you're actually talking to people, but you have nobody talking back to you. Yeah, you get people commenting back to you, but nobody talking back to you. Yeah, I did mute myself. I did. That was Leslie. Good morning from Burlington. I have read not to prune roses until spring. So Leslie, if you have Floribundas, Grandifloras, Hydrangea, you're doing pruning. If you have Rosa rugosa, Canadian Explorer roses, Griffin Buck roses, those do not need pruning until spring. So it depends on the variety of rose that you do have. Probably one of the best rose websites is the American Rose Society. So if you look at the American Rose Society's website, tons of information on there if you want to dig a little bit deeper, but it depends on the variety. So Hydrangea, Grandifloras, and Floribundas are all grafted roses. Those grafted roses have a graft point. We're pruning them back so that we can actually put more energy down to the roots and also that graft point. We're mounding soil around, keeping it tight. And the reason why we're doing that is to protect the graft point. The graft point is the weakest point on that rose. There are even the north, I think it's called the 49th parallel rose. Let me see. I'm just going to look this up right now. It's by Niagara Parks. Those guys there, you don't need to prune. Parks, north parallel rose. Let me see which one this is here. Maybe I am not doing it right. Niagara. So there's a couple new rose varieties that were bred by the Niagara Vineland's 49th parallel collection. Actually, I'm gonna show you their Facebook page. I will share that to you guys right now. Actually, we're going to show you the photos that are there. I'm just going to turn this on, do this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go boom, and then I'm going to go share, boom. So these are the 49th parallel series of roses. I'm just going to click that off there. A friend wants me to do a fashion show on the 24th. We'll see. But you can see these are some beautiful roses. This is the Aurora Borealis. This is one of their newest varieties, which is fantastic as well. So these are varieties of roses that you do not need to do any pruning and or any real winter care because they're bred for our area. So take a look at the 49th parallel roses that are out there as well. Frankie, yes. Miriam, can I use Grub Begone now? My lawn has lots of holes on it. You can still use Grub Begone right now. The grubs haven't gone deep in the surface, even though we've had some cooler conditions. Key is when using Grub Begone, you need to have a wet lawn, apply it down, and then water the lawn again. Pamela King, another reply that's there. I have a small maple tree that I planted 2 years ago that I would like to move. When would be a good time? Pamela, now is a great time to be doing that. Still warm ground temperature. That maple tree is going into dormancy. It won't be under a lot of stress with the move. When you're planting it, use a quick start fertilizer and or even a bone meal. Try not to disturb the root system, but fall is an excellent time to be doing transplanting. Cool temperature, greater frequency of rain. You can do that up until really the snow lies with success. Elizabeth, happy Thanksgiving from PEI. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm so sad. Hey, if you guys can, that are watching us right now, if we can contribute to the Red Cross, because the Red Cross right now is supporting funds into Atlantic Canada, and the federal government is actually providing some matching to some of those funds. Make sure you do it. How can I get rid of grubs on my 1 acre property? Thank you. So really with grub control right now, with the cosmetic pesticide ban, we have the option of nematodes or Grub Begone. 1 acre of property is a large amount of property. And with that, it's going to be, it's an investment to try to get rid of grubs that are there. Maintaining your lawn, watering your lawn, keeping your lawn healthy is another way. The skunks and raccoons that will dig up your lawn will take care of it. You may want to make a strategy and kind of focus on one of the most important areas of your lawn, maybe closer to the home. But those are the two options, Grub Begone and or nematodes underneath the cosmetic pesticide ban that we have right now. We have another question out there from Christine out in Prince Edward County this morning. I've contributed to the Red Cross already. Christine, thank you. And for all those, even if there's like right now on this live little chat that we have here, we just have about 150 people that I'm talking to at this time. But this broadcast, as it sits for about a week, people continue to watch. And by the end of the week, up to about 10,000 people, sometimes 20 to 30,000 people watch it. If we just, let's say 20,000 people donated $10 each, that's $200,000. That's $200,000 of help that we can go assist Canadians, because we know Atlantic Canada will help us out there this morning. Paula Polly, good morning to you as well, and happy Thanksgiving to you. Good morning from Westport this morning as well. Catherine, frosty here in this gorgeous day. I had frost here in Bradford, and I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of sad that, the garden season's coming to the end. But, the end of one garden season means the beginning and the time to plan for another garden season. So that's also some excitement that's out there. We got another shout out this morning. Happy Thanksgiving from Maple. How often should I water plants in the greenhouse? Susan. So Susan, because you do have a greenhouse, which is, a great benefit. But now, even though you think I have a greenhouse, there's lots of light. Plants are going to need a ton of water. Well, because daylight hours are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, it's going to really impact the amount of watering that you're doing. So the variables that we have in terms of how often we water is pot size. So plants that are in smaller pots usually need to be watered more often because they dry out faster. How much sunlight are we receiving? If we have continuous cloudy days, we don't have to water that much. If our daylight hours are getting shorter, then they're not using as much water because plants are actually going into dormancy and not actively growing. So there's not one set answer that I can tell you how often you should be watering plants in the greenhouse. You'll be watering those plants more often than the plants inside your home, but depending upon the size of the plant, the type of plant, how much light we're receiving, and the length of the day all impact. So the key is just go in and look at your plants, take a look at the soil. So one thing about being a greenhouse grower or a farmer or a gardener is you got to go let the plants let you know when they need to be watered. And that could be right now, it could be every other day that you're watering. Some plants you may need to do a watering each day. If we had like this weekend, today and tomorrow, we'll probably get into a little bit of sunshine. So it all depends on that. I hope I answered your question there, by the way, as well. Davika, good morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving from Niagara Falls. Yeah, amazing. Here we go with another one as well. First time to try garlic. When should I plant garlic? Catherine Collins. Great question as well. So once again, garlic, when we're planting garlic, we're taking that bulb of garlic, we're pulling the cloves off. We're spacing those cloves at about 6 inches apart. The height of the bulb, we're going to plant it 3 times in depth. So if that is a 2-inch height of bulb or clove, forgive me, you're going to be planting that down to 6 inches. You're going to be planting it over the next 2 weeks. Really, we're planting it now that we're starting to see snow up in Huntsville, a frost that's here. It's the time to plant garlic. So I would be confident in planting garlic this weekend over the next 2 weeks, and good luck to you. It's super easy to grow. It'll come out next season. With that, in June to July, you'll see these little on top of the stalks that kind of grow up, that foliage that comes up. You're going to see a little bulb that kind of is on the top, and what's called a scape. You remove the scape. You can use the scapes. You're watering, you're fertilizing a little bit, and garlic is fantastic out there. Here we go with another question. Wondering what I should do with the remaining smallish peppers and green tomatoes in my garden. So the smallish peppers, you can harvest those, and many of those peppers, if they're sweet peppers, you can still use them. The greenish tomatoes that you have in your outdoor area is you can, if we're going to be getting significant cold frost, which we have been, you can either cover the plants to protect them from frost. The other part too is you can harvest some of those green tomatoes, and if you put them into a paper bag, so put a bunch of green tomatoes in a paper bag with 1 red tomato or even 1 ripe banana. And with that, the ethylene in there will actually start to help those guys mature and actually help them turn over and go into color. They'll actually ripen them. Depends on the size of the tomato. Some of the smaller ones won't go to red and or will ripen. Tomatoes should never be stored in the fridge. In your home, if you want them to turn into color, you want to give them darkness, room temperature, and you want to put them with some piece of ripe fruit, either ripe tomato and or ripe banana that's out there. Here we go with another great question from Tracy. Do I trim my hydrangea bush and tree before winter, or do I wait to leave it to spring? If it does have flowers on it, no matter what the variety is, I would remove the blooms off. Sometimes they look good in winter, like they really look attractive. But the fear that I have is if we have a heavy wet snow, it'll actually, those big blooms catch that snow and bend the stems down. If it's a macrophylla, being a pink or blue hydrangea, we don't want to prune it at all in the fall. If it is an Annabella, PG, if it is Incredible, Limelights, all those varieties that are generally white and or cone-shaped flowering hydrangeas, those you can prune now. And you can prune them up to almost half their size. So it's really, we're pruning at this time of the year to clean up the garden, but we're pruning to protect the garden from heavy wet snows and from any freezing rain. So when you walk your properties, take a look of any stems that if they were to be collected by heavy wet snow, would they bend, would they break? And we need to clean those guys up that are out there too. Another hydrangea question, I think. I have a lot of hydrangeas in pots. How can I save them for next year? Put them in the ground. That's the best thing. If you have hydrangeas in pots, they're not going to overwinter with great success in a pot. So take those in the pot and all. You can just sink them into a garden. And then you can remove them next spring. And you can even group them all together in one area and just sink them into the ground, put soil around them. And then next season, you can actually lift those pots up and put them back into containers. They'll have more success overwintering that way because the extra additional soil that's around them will insulate them and really help them out to make sure that they do overwinter. Brenda, good morning to you as well. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Curious about lawn care at this time of the year. I've seen a lot of products and not sure what to use. Thanks again for your help. So lawn care for this year is cut, feed, and weed. Okay, so we're going to cut our lawns. We want to make sure that we're cutting our lawn to a height, and I'm going to have a little Facebook/Instagram story come out later this afternoon on fall lawn care. So we want to cut our lawn to a number 3 or a number 2 so that the blades of the grass are not too tall, so they don't bend over in winter with snow and suffocate the lawn. We want to, of course, rake any leaves that we have on our lawn. That's super important as well. We want to fertilize with a fall lawn food. I use Scott's Turf Builder fall lawn food. You'll see it's in a red bag. That one there, and it will overwinter. If you don't use it all, you can use last year's fertilizer. It doesn't go bad as long as it's stored in a dry location. So we put the fall lawn food down. Then we inspect our lawn and look for any weeds. If we have weeds, we can use Weed B Gone or just hand removal. And that's it. Those are the things that you do for fall lawn care. And this is a perfect weekend, once again, to put down that fall lawn food. Yeah, that fall lawn food. Scott's, look for the red bag. Good morning, Frankie. Do we trim Rosa Sharon? Keeps the seeds to plant next year. So Rosa Sharon is a late blooming plant that you can prune at this time of the year. Prune after bloom, you'll never fail. If you want to keep the size of that Rosa Sharon, you can do that pruning right now. You can plant those seeds for next year and do that fun and do that harvesting. It's not grafted. So you will get a Rosa Sharon from the seed pods that are there. Some of the perennial, it's a hibiscus. Rosa Sharon's from the hibiscus family. Pretty easy overall. Gets to be a big plant, so you do want to do some pruning that are out there. Little question about red peppers, Marlene. My red peppers turned very dark green. Is that another sign of blossom end rot? It can be a sign of blossom end rot. If you're getting that dark green, especially on the base of the red pepper itself, can also be an indication of a lack of light as well. So maybe not those peppers, maybe too in the foliage of all the pepper plants that are there. So if you have a lot of foliage and there's not any light getting down into those peppers, you can get that dark green color. Also, if you're using too high nitrogen, that can also create that dark green color. My buddy Matthew. Good morning, Matthew. How was the Blue Jays game the other day? And did you have fun at the game with your boys? And happy Thanksgiving to you. Had a great time with the boys yesterday. We went to the Jays game, Gavin Matheson and their friend Nathan. We watched the game. It was kind of disappointing. So after we went out for dinner, I got to tell you where we went for dinner. I got to give them a shout out. It's out in Mississauga. I had to take Nathan, which is my son's friend, to a classic traditional steakhouse. Zorro's, if you ever want to go to an old school steakhouse that has not changed the decor, the waiters dress in suits, they make the Caesar salad at your table. It's just a classic old school. They put pickles on your table with olives and some garlic bread. If you want an old school experience with a great meal and you want to take out a family for a nice meal as well, check out Zorro's and shout out to the family there. They'd made us a really nice meal last night as well. And that was super fun. Had a great day. Made me smile. And I was grateful for the people at Zorro's to keep in their tradition. Nice Greek family that's there. And grateful to be with my boys at the game. Will, good morning. Can I still put down sod in the Collingwood area? Yes, indeed. Go for it, buddy. You can do sod. You can actually put sod down. I put sod down when it's been snowing outside. I've done some projects where we've been sodding when it snowed. Actually, we did one at Moss Park in Toronto when there was all that damage that happened. Landscape Ontario came together and we cleaned up that garden, that lawn, forgive me, that park in early December, laid sod, and it came back great. Claudette. Good morning, Frankie. Just wanted to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving weekend from Oshawa. To all those out there, hey, let's be grateful this weekend. If you have health, you have family, and I know Thanksgiving can be hard for some people that really maybe don't have, like we lose connections and sometimes things get ugly with families. Not all families are perfect. Most families are imperfect. But if you're healthy and you're watching this, be grateful. If you're have a garden, be grateful. If you have kids, be grateful. Just look for the little things in life that bring you joy and be grateful for those. And that's what Thanksgiving is all about. You may be your friends, be grateful for them. Do a Friendsgiving that's out there. But you know what? It's a wonderful world. You know, I'm grateful to live in Canada. Even though we have some problems, we have many problems that are out there. Other areas in this world, if we look at what's happening in Iran, we look at what's happening in Ukraine, we look at what's happening in Russia, other places around the world, we need to be super grateful, guys. Super grateful. We got another one that's here this morning. Happy Thanksgiving from Will. I think we got a question here too from Hubert. Which are good brands of aerators? I want to give my backyard a grass makeover. If you're looking for an aerator, there's really no need, Hubert, to go and purchase an aerator. You're only using it one time a year. And then what happens is it just sits there. And sometimes if you have a fairly decent soil, you maybe only need to aerate your lawn every other year. And you can aerate really rapid and really quick. So I would go and rent. So I would talk to your friends and I would just rent an aerator. If you're thinking about purchasing one, they're all fairly similar that are out there. If you're doing the motorized aerators, just go on Kijiji and buy one that's used. That's a good quality used as well. But really, I would rent. I wouldn't buy on that one. Alice, good morning. Frankie from Scarborough. Is it a good time to transfer hydrangeas from the pot to the ground? Yes, indeed. It is the time. This is a fantastic weekend to do that for sure. Christine replying out there this morning as well. Thanksgiving holidays with your boys. Thank you so much. Enjoy Thanksgiving holiday, Frankie Flowers. Thank you so much. I am. We're doing Thanksgiving today. And the reason why we're doing Thanksgiving later this afternoon is just kind of family logistics to organize everything that's out. I'm actually coaching a hockey practice this afternoon before Thanksgiving. And then I'm doing, like, there's a game tomorrow. It's busy. That's the best way to say it, but it's good. Anne-Marie, should I protect curly willow? They're about 3 to 4 feet tall. Curly willow, wow, that's a fast growing plant. Actually, I have a bunch on my parents' property, a fun growing plant, 3 to 4 feet in tall. You don't necessarily need to protect them. Sometimes the willows, though, out there will get chewed by some animals in the wintertime because they are quite tender. So you can either spray them around the base with animal be gone. That'll actually leave the taste of bitrix on them to protect them from that. But really, you don't have to do any care. They're tough. If you have any really long branches that are really extended out and just growing beyond really like a tight looking, even though it's a curly plant, but if you have one that's kind of growing sideways, just give it some basic little trims, pruning, super fun. And that's super easy, but that's out there. Here we go with another happy Thanksgiving this morning. Linda, is it okay to bring in geranium plants for the winter? Yes, indeed. If you have a bright window that faces south, your geraniums can do fine in the pot indoors. You do the occasional watering. Don't fertilize until March. You can do some. You can even take some of the leaves off it and create cuttings and additional geraniums. You can also take the geraniums and dry them. Actually, what you're doing is you're hanging them in an area that doesn't go below the freezing mark, but is fairly cool, but not cold and dark. And take a look at drying or overwintering geraniums, and you can see that process as well. But you can leave them in the pot. I need to get compost for the perennial garden. May I also mulch up leaves and put it in my garden? Thank you very much for your advice, Diane. Yes, indeed. Mulching those leaves add carbon into the garden. The leaves that you have, as long as they're clean and there's no disease, or even if there's a little bit of disease, is fine. But that leaf compost is fantastic to put in and to really make that soil a little bit nicer that's out there as well. Matthew, nice to hear. Frank, thank you very much, buddy. Elizabeth, hey there as well, Elizabeth. First year growing parsley, what do I do with it? Thanks. So Elizabeth, parsley at this time of the year, we are going into winter. I've had parsley do great all the way into December. It can actually take some frosts. Hard to overwinter if you bring it indoors. It just tends to kind of pitter out. But you can continue to harvest the parsley outdoors. The other thing you can do with the parsley, if you have a boatload of it, is you can actually harvest right now and then bring it into your home, and you're going to mince it up, and you're going to finely mince it up, and you're going to mince it up. And even if you were to blend it and put it into a blender, and then you can freeze it into little herb cubes. You can see the little herb cubes. You can buy those sometimes at Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Sense, even on Amazon. And you can freeze the little parsley cubes and put them into your freezer. Then during the season, if you need parsley for some of your cooking, you just throw those cubes in, boom, you have parsley that's out there. You can do the same thing with basil as well. Here we go with another question about rosemary. Marlene, when do I need to bring my rosemary inside temperature-wise? I brought my rosemary in, so I would do the same thing right now. So my rosemary's in. It's actually indoors in my kitchen. My kitchen actually has large glass doors that faces south, so lots and lots of light. I'm watering it maybe once a week, once every other week, not fertilizing and just letting it be. And this is the second season that it's indoors, which is really quite impressive, I would say. Here we go with another question this morning from Geranium or Geranium. That's a very nice name, by the way. Should I clean up my perennials, coneflowers, black-eyed Susan, rose bushes, or should I leave them until spring? So it's up to you. When do you have more time? If you have time in fall, you can do it now. There's no worries. The benefit of leaving some of the things like the coneflowers and black-eyed Susans now is those seeds will fall on those flowers, and that'll create more for your next season. Those flower heads will provide food source for some of the birds that are out there, and they're nice to look at. That is overall. The rose bushes, if they are hybrids, grandifloras, or floribundas, we do need to do some pruning and some hilling of soil around them. So Look at the variety of roses you have. If they are Canadian Explorer roses or Roses rugosa, if those are non-grafted roses, you don't really need to do much. I would prune the roses down a little bit so that the heavy wet snow and or freezing rain, if we ever get that, doesn't damage those. But it's really up to you. I'm going to answer one last question that's here. Just going to go to it. How do I keep cats out of my garden? Thank you. This is from Arlene. So cats see your garden as a big litter box. So we got to figure out what they don't like to do, what they don't like to smell, see, hear, touch, taste, all their senses. Cats, number one, hate the smell of citrus. So sometimes when you zest some citrus, so be it a grapefruit and or an orange, and you just kind of put some of that around, cats hate anything that's irritating to their paws. So coarse rock mulch or any type of mulch that's kind of coarse to their paws. They hate snakes. So even putting some rubber snakes that are in there from the dollar store, you go buy a few. It's amazing how that keeps them out of there. When you see a cat in your garden, even if you have a little water pistol, give it a little shot of water. It'll hate the water and it'll get the idea to go out. And then also don't give it that space in the garden. So if it's just open soil, if you plant that soil up a little bit, there's not space for the cat to go in there and use your garden as a litter box. So there's some ways. So we're at 31 minutes today, guys. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Also, once again, if you can, take a look at the Red Cross where you can donate to Atlantic Canada. It'd be great to put some funds over there to my friends in PEI, Nova Scotia that are still continuing to clean up, in Newfoundland as well. We're sending love and positive vibes to you. We're not going to forget to be about you, what happened with Fiona. Health and happiness, gratitude. It's always great to be in the garden. Always great to be with you here. I'll see you next Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Keep smiling, keep growing, keep blooming all. That's what I'm saying. And enjoy those tomatoes.